With Verdansk back playable for Warzone, it seems like a lot of players are struggling with some recent changes, some a little bit with plates, but one of the biggest issues I've been hearing about is the money issue. So I want to go ahead and kind of address this and talk about some of the systems that changed from Warzone 1 to now, and they actually effectively nerfed higher skilled players and kind of buffed casual players. And I'll go ahead and break down how they did that and how you can get your cash account super high where you're getting like 50 to 100K a match relatively easy, and they kind of break it down where the break-even points are because they change several mechanics with the game. Some of the B-roll you're going to see I'm playing with Earl and Mikey. We're playing in trio quads. This kind of highlights one issue with this current contract system. It doesn't scale with your party size. It's specific to the mode you play. So if you play solos, you're going to get a different value for a contract than you do in duos, trios, and quads, regardless of your party size. So this is effectively a nerf for people that end up playing in lower squads and trying to chase kills. So if you're a solo player going for solo quads and you don't have any teammates, you don't get extra cash just because you decided to play solo. Same thing in trios or quads. If one of your teammates disconnects, it's not like the contract values are going to shift to give you more money, and you get progressively less money depending on the squad size. So in this particular case, if you did a bounty within solos, you're gonna get 4,000, and pretty much every contract is gonna give you 4,000 except for protect from a bounty. If an enemy team gets a bounty and happens to select you, it's only 900. If they've done contracts, that multiplier will also go up. But in general, you're gonna get 4,000 per contract. Back in the day, it used to be 6,000 for bounties, which rewarded aggressive play. If you did something like a supply run or a recon, you'd only get like 1,000 or 1,500, a relatively low amount. Now that's been kind of flipped a little bit, and you're gonna get 4,000 regardless in solos, 2,500 in duos, 2,000 in trios, and then 1,800, only 1,800 in quads. So they kind of scaled it so that if you're a hyper aggressive player doing bounty UAV, you're not going to get nearly as much money as you used to. Whereas before, if you were trying to play for the win, you were doing some recons, you do some supply runs, maybe you do a scavenger here and there, the net money overall is you're going to end up with significantly more money than you did previously, unless you actually did 15 different contracts where the multiplier kept going up. As we know with the current mode, you get an extra 30%, 60%, 90%, all the way up to 150, and then it kind of caps off. Previously in Warzone 1, the first iteration of this, it used to be plus 40%, plus 80%, and then plus 120. So you get to 120 after 3 contracts instead of 4. Again, kind of tapering the money a little bit and making it the people that would normally or ordinarily do a ton of contracts, they're not getting as much money as they did previously. And that compounds with the other things that we talked about with the 6K for the bounty versus now. If you're playing quads, you're only going to get 1,800, and the risk reward is a little bit higher for that contract than something like a recon where you just kind of jump on the objective and you get that objective done. But now that we've gotten that out the way, I did want to go ahead and kind of actually show the values and see kind of how this ends up working out. Obviously, if you're playing in a duo, they kind of modified the money amount that you would get because there's an expectation that now you have 2 people. It ends up being net more money. So in this particular example, in this first one for the base, we know that if you did a bounty, a scavenger, a recon, or a supply run, you're gonna get 4,000. After you've completed that contract, you're gonna get an extra 30%, an extra 30% on top of that, on all the way across. And then by the end of it, if you've maxed out your bonus, you're gonna get 10,000 cash per contract you complete. And for duos, similar kind of effect, but it caps out at 6,250. And if you're playing in a duo, you're going to end up with 12,500. So it'll end up being where you have a little bit more money, 250 more, or 2,500 more cash than you would if you were just playing solo, because obviously the way they've done the math. Trios, you end up with 15,000. 18,000 for quads if you max out that bonus. So do one contract and the entire squad will get a combined 18,000. And the only contract that really has a different varying value is like the one I said, protect from a bounty. That one's dependent on if the enemy team, I believe, has upped their contract multiplier because you get a portion of the protect. So you'll get 900. If they've done a contract, it goes up to 1,300. or something along those lines. I've seen that number. I haven't really seen more than that because it's kind of weird to simulate those scenarios without a private match and getting a bunch of people together or whatever. But regardless, it's something to keep in mind on how that works. So what you could do is focus on maybe the contracts that you know you can do safe and efficiently to get this multiplier up. Recons are really good for that. Scavengers are also good because they'll give you the satchel, they'll give you other cash, you get a loadout, and then now you can protect yourself while doing recons. Supply runs do not spawn until zone 1 has completely closed, so that would be another great option, but you got to wait until those spawn in each zone. They will spawn in new contracts because of the lack of buy stations. There's 30 on the map, but doesn't always feel like there's that many on the map, but that part of it makes it so that supply runs, if you grab one supply run, it has a high probability of going to the same buy station multiple times, and this ends up being a higher value than what we've even talked about because you can all go there and get a free self revive, maybe get half price streaks. So the value inherently in a supply run that maybe if you have 2 people on a supply run, you grab the contract, someone already turns it in, you grab the other one, it automatically turns it in because of the pip spacing. You can end up with an insane amount of multiplier. And then like we've seen with recons, those are, if you're going for wins, that's the way to go. Reposition late game, understand where the zone's going to pull, and then you go for the win. So obviously the gameplay in the background is more of a proof of concept, keeping in mind that you would actually give us an extra player carrying around the same amount of money, and just doing contract spam, we were able to get to like 200,000 in cash. We weren't really looting. We're just kind of doing some contracts, recons, and then we kind of just, that was the end of it, right? You can get obscene amount of money in the game. But the thing is, like I said, they've changed it. So they've nerfed sweaty players, which I'm sure people will love. And then they've buffed pretty much everyone else, mid-tier and casual players that would do a few contracts. You're getting significantly more money than you did previously in Warzone 1. And this is a subtle change that I think they'll probably tune over time to give a little bit more risk reward for doing a bounty versus a scavenger versus a recon versus something as simple or fast as a supply run that could be done with vehicles or helicopters. I thought I'd point this out because a lot of people are struggling with money, and there is a surplus of money. When it comes to the plates, that's another issue. I think when you kill someone, they should drop more plates organically. Every chest you loot should have a plate in it. 5 and 8 plates are probably fine. I know it's a little punishing, but realistically, if the other part gets solved, then you're good. The money issue, though, is basically a non-issue with the 6,000, the free buybacks if you do a supply run. Like, you shouldn't be dying if you're doing recons because then you'll know where the zone's going to be. You're going to shoot out power position. So I thought I'd go over that because the money in this game could multiply pretty quickly, and it doesn't take very long. By the first zone, you can usually do about 3 to 4 contracts. You would already effectively be at the sum of these numbers. If you're in a trio, that's already 20K, 30K, 40K as a team. That's pretty significant if you've only done about 3 or 4 contracts. Good luck getting your money as quick as possible. I thought this video would help you out, especially if you were short on money. But we'll see you on the next one. Thank you for watching. As always, have a great day.